For those of you who are joining us, we will start the Danville Town Council meeting at 5 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you. For those of you joining us, the Danville Town Council meeting will begin shortly.
Well, welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the Danville Town Council this evening. It is Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. I'd like to ask our city clerk, Marie Sunseri, to please do the roll call.
Yes, Councilmember Fong,
Here.
Councilmember Stepper,
Here.
Councilmember Storer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Here.
and Mayor Morgan.
I'm here.
And all council members are present.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Also, are there any announcements this evening?
Yes, this meeting is being held by teleconference only on Zoom, and a recording of this meeting, as well as any written public comments, will be made available on the town website after the meeting. And just to note, we have not received any written public comments on any of the items on the agenda this evening. To provide live comments during the meeting, we're asking you to use the raise hand feature in Zoom. And when the mayor opens up the item to public comment, raise your hand. Your name will be announced and only your audio will be enabled. You're asked to state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And again, wait until that specific item is opened up for public comment by the mayor before you raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you for that announcement, Marie. We appreciate it. Next is item 2, which is our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And we have somebody that doesn't come on to our meetings that often. So I asked if she would lead us. That would be Lonnie Ha, our Finance Director and Treasurer for the town of Danville. Lonnie, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Lonnie. We appreciate it. Next item is item number 3, changes to the order of the agenda. Are there any changes to the order of the agenda?
Mayor, there are no changes to the order of the agenda.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that as well. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 4, which is for the good of the town. The good of the town is an opportunity for members of the public to address the town council on items that are not on the agenda this evening. If you would like to address the council on something that is not on the agenda, please do as Marie had mentioned earlier, which is to raise your hand. You'll have 3 minutes. No decisions can be made or discussions can take place this evening as well. Marie, do we have anybody that would like to speak under the good of the town?
No, there are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the good of the town.
I have one person just raised their hand.
Okay, all right, well, welcome.
Okay, they're identified on the screen as Al and Carolyn.
Okay,
And we'll let Al and Carolyn speak now.
Hello, do you have me?
yes, Al, hi. Al, what is your last name? Is it Al?
My last name is Chocano.
Oh, that's a nice long last name, but welcome, Al. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I have concerns on the good of for Danville and that, and what it has to do with this tree. I have reviewed the tree ordinance that is currently in Danville and that. I've also reviewed tree ordinances of San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland, and El Cerrito that have got tree ordinances that also pertain to views and that. What has happened is that we're living in Shadow Hills, and the lot that we have is postage stamp size of a lot. It did have a view up to about 10 years ago when our backyard neighbors planted some trees. We had a view of the protected hillside and ridge lines on the west side of Danville. And now it is almost totally blocked by trees. Now, also what happens is that people plant the trees and they don't have any regards to the planting directions on the trees. Most trees come with directions that say, hey, this tree is going to get 30 feet tall. It's going to have a 30-foot canopy. some people elect to put the trees very close to property line in order to maximize their use of their backyards and that. Well, what this does is that if the tree is planted 2 feet off a property line and it's got a 30-foot canopy, then that means that 13 foot of that canopy is going to encroach on the neighbor's property. Now, in the ordinance, I believe we have the rights to trim the limbs to property line. However, that is not advised by arborists, because if you're going to trim a limb, they recommend the limb to be trimmed back to the main shoot of the tree so that the tree can heal that limb. By cutting the limb off mid-limb, you can cause disease on the tree and other things, insects to get into it. And the limb will eventually die, and then more insects will go ahead and do it. What ends up happening is that I could be responsible for.
Go ahead, you have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
I could be responsible for my neighbor's tree dying. And if it falls onto their house by me trimming it, I could be responsible there. I don't think it's fair that I have to pay for people to trim the trees, pay for gardeners, pay for gutter cleaning, roof cleaning, and everything else because they're trees. And I'd like the city of Danville to look into.
So Al, that was the end of the timer, and I don't know if you just wanted to finish up your last sentence. Would you like to finish your last sentence?
Yes, I would. I would really like the city of Danville to review other cities' tree ordinances and, think about this a little bit. I do not think it's fair to other property owners that we have the burden of trimming somebody else's tree that elects to plant it so close to property lines.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. Rob, did you want to weigh in on this a little?
Sure. I mean, within the constructs of what we can do on the Brown Act here. So Al has identified some cities do have view protection ordinances that deal with the rights of property owners to maintain views from trees growing up. There are some of those around. That's certainly something the council could look into in the future if they wanted to. With respect to some of the other issues that he's raised regarding where trees are planted and what happens when the limbs cross the property line, that really is a matter of state law, and I'm not familiar with any cities that regulate that type of thing. I mean, we control planting of trees on new subdivisions, but once a property owner moves in, we don't regulate that. I'm not aware that anybody is. It's largely governed by provisions in the state civil code.
Great. Well, thank you for that, Rob. We appreciate it. And Al, if you'd like to just give us an email, maybe you could give Rob an email and he can take a look at it if you have any further concerns about that as well. We appreciate you giving us a call this evening and making us aware of the situation. Are there any other speakers under the good of the town?
No, Mayor, no hands are raised at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, they're going to go ahead and close item number 4 and move on to item number 5, which was our consent calendar. And the consent calendar are items that are considered routine in nature and are usually acted upon in one motion. I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's anybody from the council that would like to pull off an item off of consent. All right. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and see Marie. Is there anybody in the audience? Oh, I'm sorry. Karen, did you
sorry.
pull something?
No, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong place. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that would like to pull an item off of consent?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council.
So moved.
Second, and I'd just like to add a big thank you to Dave Castile for working out that great agreement on helping get our fields lit under a partnership.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, good point as well. Right. So we have item 5.1 through 5.5, a first and a second. Marie, would you mind doing a roll call?
Wonderful. Councilmember Fong,
Yes.
Councilmember Stepper,
Yes.
Councilmember Storer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Yes.
and Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
And the consent calendar was approved unanimously.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Item number 6 is our town manager's report. And that we would be turning this over to our town manager, Joe Calabrigo.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So with October having arrived, we're officially into fall. The town is still operating under a state of emergency due to COVID, which means that we are continuing to follow all of the directives from the California Department of Public Health, CDC, County Health Department, related to town facilities, community events, facility rentals, programming, and so on. This includes the latest health order that was issued middle of last month that mandates that operators of dining establishments, entertainment venues, and fitness facilities limit indoor service to those who are either vaccinated or can show a negative test result. So this is impacting several of our programs. For Danville, in the last couple of weeks, new cases have come down from 145 toward the end of August to 71 as of today. So it, for all intents and purposes, appears as though the most recent surge has passed. As of today, the county website tells us that almost 87% of county residents over the age of 12 have been vaccinated. For Danville, that figure is reported at being greater than 90%, but it's been reported that way for the last 2 months. So by now I'm interpreting it to mean that it's really greater than 90%. So very positive response among our community members. And of course, we continue to urge all of our community members to get their vaccines. On the economic development front, our staff, we are continuing to assist and support our businesses in a number of ways. The new downtown master plan that the town will be embarking upon, we have a request for proposals out. The consultants are due back with their responses next week, and we'll be looking to interview consultants the week after that and be back to council to award a contract next month. We are also planning to develop a website similar to what we've done with the housing element that will include some interactive features for public engagement. On the Forward Focus Grant Program front, we have awarded 141 grants that total about $472,000. We're now in the process of closing out the program, and we will be using the remaining funds to support businesses in other ways. We are underway with our fourth quarter marketing. This year, it'll be with a Danville Picks holiday shopping guide. As you can recall, these shopping guides have been pretty popular in past years. This is going to be the biggest guide ever. It's been increased from 16 to 24 pages. The ads, I'm told, sold out within 10 days. And I think the fact that the town funding is able to subsidize the cost of the ads and reduce those costs by about 75% for our businesses has something to do with that. On the financial front, we are moving forward with implementation of the American Rescue Plan Act, and you'll be talking about that shortly on your agenda. The finance department is in the process of completing the year-end close for the 2021 fiscal year and preparing the comprehensive annual financial audit that'll be presented to the council coming up here in October and November. Switching over into legislation, as you are all well aware, you've been getting some very complete reports from our deputy town manager, Diane Friedman, at your monthly, every month at your meetings. Advocacy has been at the forefront of the council's focus this year, trying to limit new legislation that erodes local decision-making, especially as it relates to planning and housing. Bottom line, 1,104 bills passed through the legislature this year and are awaiting the governor's signature or veto. So that's a lot of new laws that we'll be trying to bring ourselves up to speed on. Despite the town's opposition, most of the new housing bills, those like Senate Bills 8, 9, and 10, were passed. They were signed by the governor. These bills are going to reduce the scope of local land use authority for all cities and they're going to change residential development patterns across the state. So our staff is now working on implementing steps prior to the, on implementation steps, if you will, prior to the effective date, which is January the 1st. Some other bills to note, SB 2, you've heard some testimony on this over the past few months. This is the Senate bill that pertains to peace officers and allows for decertification of peace officers and elimination of certain immunities if they do certain things. That bill was signed into law by the governor. The governor also vetoed a couple of bills that the town had taken positions on. SB 792, which was Senator Glazer's bill on tax reform. The governor apparently felt that it was duplicative of other information currently being collected, and so it was vetoed. The town supported that. SB 566, which would have further restricted local government's ability to control the placement of small cell wireless infrastructure. The town opposed this bill, and I think we were somewhat surprised, but nevertheless pleased to hear that the governor did veto it. So for those who might be following this meeting and want more information about the town's legislative advocacy efforts, they can go online and check our website. I've been providing you with updates on various mental health initiatives. The Community Crisis Initiative is continuing to move forward. This is the new countywide plan for improving mental health response for anyone, anywhere, at any time, while reducing dependence on law enforcement. This is essentially an expansion of the mobile crisis response team program that the county is operating with some added features. The program has been presented to the county's Measure X Advisory Committee with a request to obtain $20 million in annual Measure X funding, which could then be used to leverage and obtain federal and state funds that could fully fund the program. The town continues to support the program as well as the Measure X funding request. The fire district is continuing to work on their pilot mental health program. They are currently in the process of developing the training curriculum for use in training their personnel to be able to respond to nonviolent mental health emergencies. They are also reviewing their EMS and dispatch protocols to get a better sense of how to vet mental health calls. And they are looking to train police personnel beginning in January. So again, all of this aimed at reducing avoidable law enforcement responses. This program, I think, is potentially seen as being complementary to either the county's mental health services and or the program that they are continuing to evolve at the county level. So Chief Meyer and I are communicating regularly on the status of this program. Moving on to regional housing needs, ABAG, the 23 through 30 housing element. Danville was one of 28 Bay Area cities that filed appeals with ABAG on the RENA numbers that we were assigned. Despite what I think we felt to be considerable merits to our appeal, it was denied, along with, I might add, all of the rest of them. Danville has been assigned a large number of housing units to plan for over the next 8-year cycle. In fact, 4 times the number that we received in the last housing element cycle, with the majority of those units assigned for assigned as being affordable to low and very low income levels. So we are continuing our outreach and engagement efforts related to the upcoming housing element update and continuing to do our best to inform our community of what's happening there. With police services, you received your quarterly update from the chief last time on September 21st. Our school resource officers are back at both high schools. Part 1 crimes continue to be low. Thefts are down for the month of August, while residential burglaries have increased. Traffic collisions we see are creeping upward, and a greater percentage of these accidents are injury accidents. So we're watching that. I have been in recent communication with the sheriff and the district attorney in order to get a status update on their respective investigations into the March 11th officer-involved shooting that resulted in the death of Tyrell Wilson. Sheriff Livingston has indicated that the sheriff's office investigation should be completed by next month. The coroner's inquest should be held sometime around the first of the year, meaning 2022. District Attorney Becton indicated to me that their process won't be completed until after the coroner's inquest, because there's information presented at the inquest that they incorporate into their report. At that point, it would be their goal to conclude their process within 90 days. So upon completing their investigation, the DA would either issue a public report that includes their findings without filing criminal charges, or they would file criminal charges against the deputy involved, Deputy Hall. And as you're already aware, the trial of Deputy Hall is currently underway on manslaughter charges that are stemming from the 2018 shooting of Latimer Arbolado. Moving over into development services, starting with the capital improvement program, the Brookside Drive ADA improvements project has been completed. We received some good news. I believe it was week before last. We were notified by FEMA that the 3 projects that we had put in for funding, the Starview, Loch Lomond, and West Ridge trash rack and storm drain projects, we will be receiving $404,000 from FEMA to construct those projects. So we are looking forward to constructing those projects in the spring. A lot of road work in the planning phases and coming up here in the next year. We will be starting our pavement management rubberized Cape Seal project in November. We are working on plans to overlay Camino Ramon and are looking to award that design contract next month and construct those improvements in the spring of 2022. And then the San Ramon Valley Boulevard improvement project, north and south, we are looking to design and construct that project in the summer of 2022. So that'll follow on the heels of Camino Ramon. So a lot of pavement work, a lot of road work. Transportation, the biennial traffic counts have been completed. Staff is working on a level of service report and a safety analysis for several of our downtown intersections. We're currently reviewing the final draft of the townwide fiber optic master plan that's going to be coming to the town council for review at an upcoming council meeting. And we currently have 4 neighborhoods that are going through the NTMP process right now, various stages of the process. And those are Greenbrook South, Torini Drive, Claridge Drive, and Kool-Aid Ranch Road off of Lawrence Road. In maintenance, hopefully you have observed that we have recently replaced some of the passive turf areas with mulch out on Camino Tasahara along the frontage of Wood Ranch. While I'm on the subject of mulch, we're still working with Caltrans to see if they will allow us to place mulch within their freeway interchanges. And this is kind of a good news, bad news thing because we're dealing with Caltrans. We believe that they will allow us to place the mulch. Unfortunately, they have a mulch spec, and the only kind of mulch they will let us spec looks remarkably like dirt. So, we're looking at spending a lot of money to place mulch to create an appearance that won't be remarkably different than what is already there. So Mr. Castile is continuing to work with Caltrans to see if there might not be some other mutually acceptable solution there. Diablo Vista sports field lighting expansion. That was covered a little bit earlier on tonight's agenda, so we're excited to see that go forward. I did mention to council, I believe last month, but I'll mention it again. The We are going to be removing the large oak tree that is adjacent to the town meeting hall, and we'll be doing that tomorrow. The tree is dying, it can't be saved, and unfortunately it poses a threat to the building and anyone inside of it. So we will be closing off sections of the Village Theater parking lot on Wednesday and Thursday while that work is taking place. Our staff is planning to begin the repairs of the gazebo at Mcgee Ranch Park starting this week. They will have all of their creek cleaning completed for what we hope will be the upcoming winter rains by next week. And they are working with our engineering staff to get demolition bids to demolish the Weber House and the house at 282 Front Street. Moving into administration and general government. Again, you'll be hearing a little bit more about this under council reports. I won't say too much, but we do have a meeting on Friday with Recycle Smart to start discussions on rate setting for solid waste and recycling for the upcoming year. All of the town staff will be undergoing diversity, equity, and inclusion training during the month of October. And we are continuing to move forward with the changes that are required for the council to begin hybrid meetings, possibly sometime this fall. In recreation, arts, and community services, I'm just going to say, you know, every time I give an update, I ask Henry Perez Alonso to give me some help with this. And Henry presents me with enough information to constitute the entire report, sans adding anything else. So I try to edit it down. Suffice it to say, there's a lot of stuff going on. Recreation has now taken steps to comply with the latest health orders that became effective on September 22nd as it impacts some of our exercise and fitness classes and so on. In cultural arts, the Bellissimo exhibit at the theater closes on October the 14th. We have a Halloween double feature at the theater on October 29th. Senior bocce and softball either have or are wrapping up their play for the year. And our Breakfast with Friends program resumed on September the 14th. Sports and facilities, adult bocce is back at Sycamore Valley Park. We've got 54 teams that are playing Monday through Friday. Adult softball is back on Monday and Thursday nights. A lot of outdoor youth activities, tennis, volleyball, karate classes. Moving into youth and teens, the Danville Youth Council kicked off on September 13th with their elections and orientations for new members. We've got the Scarecrow Stroll happening right now that our recreation staff partners with economic development on. Kids Night Out is going to take place on October 8th. The annual Spooktacular celebration will take place on October 28th. All of our teen centers are up and fully running, and a lot of youth classes being offered. So as you can see, a lot of activities going on as we move into the fall. Would want to remind folks to check out our fall Live Locally newsletter, which just landed in my mailbox at home last night. So it's landing in folks' mailboxes this week. And remind all of our community members to follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Don't forget to sign up for Nixle alerts, read our newsletters, check out our constantly updated website at www.danville.ca.gov. And with that, I will conclude my report. Be happy to field any council questions.
Thank you so much, Joe. Are there any questions or comments for Joe? Karen?
Just a quick one, Joe, just with respect to the lighting of Diablo Vista, that was performed with a great deal of cooperation among our sports alliance partners who were funding that. And this is not something that was true 20 years ago. And we just appreciate so much how they work together for our community and especially for our youth.
I do appreciate that comment, Councilmember Stepper. I think as you and the council are aware, this is just the most recent of many successful partnerships that we have had with our sports alliance. We work very closely with them. Although I will say that in terms of its monetary value, it is certainly among the larger contributions that they've made over the years. So much appreciative of that.
Is there anybody else that would like to make any comments or have any questions? Robert?
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate the report. Hey, when does the new information come out? You know, hopefully lessening the current restrictions. Is there a date for that?
That's a good question, Councilmember Storer. They are not operating on any hard and fast schedule. What we've been advised by Dr. Farnatano and Director Roth is that they're continuously monitoring the data that they have. They're looking at the rate of infection and hospitalization in Contra Costa County, along with the rate of vaccination, and they are making those decisions as they go along. Oftentimes, without a whole lot of advance notification. So with this last notification that we received on September the 14th, there really wasn't any advance notification, and fortunately, they gave us a week before the order became effective. So, we're the Contra Costa City Managers Group continues to hear regularly from Director Roth and Dr. Farnatano, and we continue to urge them to, give us a heads up if they can, so that we can help get the word out to our community members.
So as of right now, just to be clear, this is not a monthly, report from them. This is
No.
Whatever they want to report, they will.
Well, it's not a report per se, but they
Yeah, I mean,
they will update and reissue and clarify their health orders, and
Yeah,
so
okay.
they've done that with some frequency throughout the duration of the pandemic.
and with Chief Myers and this mental health program that he's putting together, he's using, and my understanding is it civilian EMTs, so it's sort of separate of the fire department, and the pilot program, you said, I think begins sometime early next year.
My understanding from talking to the chief is that they are looking to integrate a different classification of employee into the department that will specialize on EMT services rather than being the firefighter, paramedic trained folks that they currently have right now.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks for that.
But that would be just for this mental health program, because that would free those folks up to respond to mental health calls while keeping their other trained personnel available to respond to other calls.
Yeah, and do you have any understanding of how long the pilot program will last?
I don't specifically.
Okay. Good, Joe.
Are there
Thanks.
any? Sorry, Robert, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Are you done?
I am. Thank you.
Okay. And Dave, I see you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Morgan. Joe, regarding the decision by the chief medical officer for the county, I think we all get that right now there's so many different messages that are being communicated to the community that there's confusion as to what's expected, but most importantly, what is the right thing to do? Especially since, our numbers are down, they're trending down. And I would believe that our community has not just committed, but are practicing good social distancing as well as masking as well. You're right. When the message came down, it was a lot of people kind of scratched their heads wondering what is going on, especially since our vaccination rate is over 90%. And in most cases, our numbers were down. And I think they were confused as to what now do you expect from us? What I would advocate, and I appreciate you having commented earlier, is much more of an active communication between our towns with the county and with our county supervisors, and most importantly, with the medical officer and that health department, to make sure that we do have one message and one voice when it's communicated to our community, and not several different messages out there, because at the end of the day, we all want to get past where we are today, but we can't do that if we continue to be confused as to what's expected of us. The second comment I'll make is regarding mental illness, and I really do appreciate that the town, the county, and the state are now aligning towards meeting a common goal, which is how do we address mental illness? And most importantly, what can we do for our communities and for our individuals, both proactively to prevent mental illness, and most importantly, to act on those that do have the illness as well. So I look forward to continued, not conversations, but activities and commitments and practices that will align the town, the county, and the state when it comes to delivering solutions on this major issue that continues to grow. Thank you.
Joe, I don't see you wanting to respond, so I'm going to go ahead and move over to Newell.
Maybe following up a little bit what Dave said, I think Joe's always always in constant contact. And a lot of times it's a phone call. But I think I also, just to share this, I contacted both Candace Anderson, our supervisor, and Dr. Ferrantano. My concern was, as we all saw the numbers going down, but particularly they went down in Santa Cruz County, and their health officer dropped some of those requirements. So I reached out to ask, so what do you think? Are you going to do this? And you're right, as Joe indicated, the numbers are coming down, but it does appear that they are watching this closely. And as soon as that number gets below, and they haven't shared what that number is, and I suspect it's probably going to be closer to what the previous numbers were before the surge, that they will, particularly with restaurants, go back to the standard that we had in place before. As our businesses are telling us, is their business is down 30%, even though for indoor, you can still eat outdoors without any restrictions. Indoor, the only changes is you must show proof of vaccination or have a current COVID test. But outdoor dining has no changes. That alone seems to be, as Dave, maybe what you're suggesting is people don't like the message, they don't want to comply with it, and it's causing some friction at our local restaurants, and some people are choosing to stay away. But it does appear that the numbers are getting better, and I know Joe's a hawk on this about looking at every rate of change. So I think any updates that we can get as a council as a whole, I think would help all of us. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Newell. Okay, not seeing any more comments. I want to thank you, Joe, once again for everything that you do for the town, as well as your monthly reports. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 7, which is administrative staff reports, and we do welcome public comment at this time as well. Item 7.1 is to consider adoption of resolution number 64-2021, reserving and appropriating coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds awarded to the town of Danville under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Calabrigo again.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Here with us this evening also is Lonnie Ha, who's our finance director and treasurer. And Lonnie has been booking a lot of hours working on the implementation of this program for the past several months. So by way of background, on March 11th of this year, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, or the ARPA as we refer to it, which will provide $1.9 trillion, that's trillion with a T, in relief funding to speed recovery from the economic and health effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The ARPA includes $360 billion for state and local governments, of which $65.1 billion is intended for cities, and specifically to assist cities in mitigating the fiscal impacts resulting from the pandemic. The staff report that you have this evening and that we have posted online summarizes how the ARPA applies to Danville, potential uses for recovery funds that the town is receiving under the ARPA, as well as the reporting requirements that have been established by the Department of Treasury. All of this by way of setting the stage for the town council to consider how best to use these funds in a way that will be of greatest benefit to the community. The Treasury Department has set forth some pretty extensive guidance on how ARPA funds are to be utilized. Under the ARPA, the town has been awarded just under $10.65 million in coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds. The use of these funds is also guided by the Department of the Treasury. The recovery funds are being dispersed in 2 equal tranches or payments, the first of which we received in July, the second of which we anticipate receiving in July of next year. And the payments are in equal installment amounts, so about $5.3 million with each payment. The deadline for us to obligate the recovery funds is the end of 2024, and the deadline to spend the money is the end of 2026. We have, in addition to our own staff, retained a consultant who is assisting us in making sure that we comply with all of the ARPA provisions and setting up all of the tracking and reporting that's required by the Department of the Treasury. With respect to permitted uses of ARPA funds, these recovery funds, the use of these recovery funds is guided by Section 603C1 of the ARPA. The act itself is several hundred pages long, but the use of funds is forward-looking, meaning that they are intended to cover costs incurred beginning on March 3rd of this year. The exception to that, if you will, is that funds that are received to offset revenues lost by the town, those are permitted to be tracked and covered from the onset of the pandemic. So if you'll look at pages 2 and 3 of your staff report, you'll see that there are 4 specific areas or purposes for which these funds can be used, and I'm going to run through those. Under Section A, they can be used to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or to aid impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. Some additional uses for the town government's purposes include things like public communication efforts, enforcement of public health orders, purchases of protective equipment, ventilation improvements in key locations, capital investments in public facilities to meet pandemic operational needs, and payroll expenses for public safety employees' time that's dedicated to responding to the public health emergency. Under B, funds can be used to respond to workers performing essential work during the public emergency by providing premium pay to eligible workers. Under Section C, funds can be used for the provision of government services, and I'm highlighting to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency, relative to revenues collected in the most recent full fiscal year prior to the emergency. So what this means is that recipients are allowed to compute the extent of their lost revenue by comparing their actual revenue against what they could have been expected to receive had there been no pandemic. And we'll talk more about that shortly. And then under subsection D, funds can be spent to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So with in the town's case, eligible projects that apply to Danville would include things like non-point source pollution management, stormwater systems, water conservation, efficiency and reuse measures, watershed pilot projects, and technical assistance to ensure compliance with the Clean Water Act. On the broadband side of things, in order to be eligible, projects have to be designed to serve underserved or unserved households and businesses, and we don't have any of those. So that's not going to help us. So then I want to move into determination of revenue loss, because this has been an exercise that Lonnie has been engaged in for several months, working with our consultant, as well as our independent auditors. So the section that I referred to just a few moments ago permits recipients to use recovery funds to replace lost revenue. But there's a whole separate process that recipients have to go through in order to make that determination. Revenue loss is arrived at by comparing actual revenues received with an alternative revenue scenario that illustrates what could have been expected to occur for years 2020 through 2023, which are the years covered by the Arpa. So we're comparing actual or estimated actual to what we think would have happened had the pandemic not happened. So table 1 on page 4 of your staff report presents the Arpa revenue loss analysis for the town. The table shows that we have realized an actual revenue loss of just under $4.8 million for calendar year 2020, and that we estimate about a $14.85 million revenue loss for the 4 years covered. That's 2020 through 23. Now, in addition, the town has spent a little bit more than $675,000 in recoverable expenses between March and June of this year. So if we look at the actual losses that we have already realized and the funds that we have expended, that dollar amount, which is about $5.45 million, it exceeds the amount of the first tranche payment that we received in July. So based on all of this information, we believe that there's a very high likelihood that the total revenue loss that the town will experience is going to equal or exceed the full amount that's been awarded to the town under the Arpa, which in turn is going to allow the town broader latitude to use the recovery funds that are received under the Arpa. Which brings me to eligible use of funds to replace lost revenue. The Treasury Department provides guidance on how recipients can use funds that are recovered to offset the revenue loss due to the pandemic. The range of government uses allowed is somewhat broader than was described in the 4 subsections of section 603 that I recited earlier. The caveat, of course, being that funds have to be used for the direct provision of service to citizens. So potential expanded uses for Danville could include things like maintenance of infrastructure or pay-go spending for building new infrastructure or public works. That would include roads. Modernizing or upgrading our cybersecurity systems, providing police, public safety, health, or educational services. So we take these expanded uses, we combine them with the uses that are otherwise stipulated as being allowable under the Act, and you have a whole menu of potential uses to choose from. With respect to timing and financial reporting requirements, as I've mentioned earlier, all the funds have to be obligated by the end of 24, spent by the end of 26. Financial records and supporting documentation has to be retained for a period of 5 years after all of the funds have been expended. So that, as you can appreciate, will involve some extensive record keeping. And so we have set up a separate system of accounts for that purpose. The town is going to be required to submit project and expenditure reports annually. Initially, we were told that those reports would need to be submitted by October 31st of this year. However, just yesterday, we were notified that our first report, rather than being due on October 31st of this year, will instead be due on April the 30th of 2022 and every April the 30th thereafter. Moving into recommendations for use of local fiscal recovery funds. As mentioned previously, these funds are being received in 2 tranches or payments. So we have received a little bit more than $5.3 million and we'll receive the same amount next July. At your study session on September the 15th, the council considered and talked about options for how to best utilize the funds that have been awarded to the town. based on the requirements and the provisions that are contained in the Arpa. The council's consensus was to use the funds to support programs, partnerships, and projects, the 3 Ps, that would address high priority needs and would help to spur economic recovery in the community. So Exhibit 1 to Resolution number 64, 2021 that's before you identifies all of the recommended uses of the funds that are to be committed with the first tranche payment, the $5.32 million. For programs, it's recommended that the town commit $850,000 to support mental health, homeless, and senior services that will benefit the community. For partnerships, it's recommended that the town commit $900,000 to support 9 different nonprofits that support services for business, mental health, seniors, libraries, students, people with special needs, and the arts. And finally, for projects, the recommendation is for the town to commit about $3.5 million for projects that will improve the downtown, improve water quality, fiber optic connectivity and cybersecurity, and safety and energy efficiency for town facilities. These improvements, again, will support economic recovery and revitalization while benefiting the broader community. From a procedural standpoint, the resolution that's before you will either appropriate or reserve funding. Funds that are appropriated are going to be available for expenditure with no further town council action. Funds that are reserved are designated, will be designated for that specific purpose, with additional council action being required to appropriate these funds once we determine the actual service providers and finalize the scope of services. Attachment B to your staff report includes all funding recommendations for both tranches of funding. So that would be the entire $10.65 million that has been awarded to the town. And again, the second half of these recovery funds will be committed once the town receives the second payment tranche in July of 2022. So that's going to conclude our staff presentation on this item. The recommendation is to adopt resolution number 64-2021, reserving and appropriating coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds awarded to the town of Danville under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Lonnie Ha and myself are available to respond to any council questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert?
Great, Joe. Appreciate the report. What a wonderful gift from the state, and I really appreciate all the wonderful things we can do with this money. And thanks for identifying, especially the entities here on this list that are all well deserving and could certainly use these monies. The next tranche, the second one, I noticed that we have this already isolated, but I'm sure we'll have a conversation at that point when the second tranche comes in, so we can actually sort of make sure that's where the money should go. I know it's mostly projects on the second one, but there may be businesses that could use some help as well.
That is correct, Councilmember Storer, and at the discretion of the council, certainly. The only limitation that you have is the total dollar amount that's available to be allocated.
Okay. And then I'm just going to offer this as a suggestion. And I think we have sort of a golden opportunity right here in front of us this evening. And I'd like us to consider the monies earmarked under the homeless services, which is $100,000, that maybe we could consider making this contribution on behalf of Tyrell Wilson and his family. And this money is rightfully earmarked to help a worthy cause. And by contributing it on behalf of the Tyrell Wilson, it sends a strong message to the community that we care, not only about the problem and the extreme unfortunate circumstance surrounding the incident, but I feel like it's the right thing to do. And it will not change the outcome, but it'll certainly send a strong message to the community that this council does care. And on behalf of Tyrell Wilson, we send $100,000 to the homeless, wherever that money is going to go for homeless relief. And then my last question is, well, there's two. That's my first ask. And then the second one is, maybe is there a reason why maybe Kids Country wasn't included in this? Nonprofit does a lot of good work in our community. And then the last question is, I know we're going to be looking at a master plan for our downtown and these parklets that are coming up. I'm hearing from the restaurant owners that, these parklets are going to start at about $25,000 to build, to, identify what these look like from a design perspective and to make them, safe and covered building apartments. But my most important ask is that we look at the homelessness amount of $100,000 on behalf of Tyrell Wilson. Thank you, guys.
Okay, I've got Karen.
Okay, just a couple of quick comments. First of all, especially to Lonnie and to Joe and all of those who had to redo the accounting system to accommodate accounting so that we can get these funds back that have been spent in our community and use them in such a great way. So I can't even begin to fathom the number of hours. I just know they live over at the town offices. So, so I know that's how it happened. And secondly, with respect to a few years ago, we were talking about how can we help our nonprofit community? And there are always different kinds of strings attached to everything you do when you're in government. And so this has been quite an opportunity here with this particular awards, with not awards, but the recouping of the American Rescue Plans and being able to help those people who help so many. And they have just the cost. They have the same cost as all of us. They have employees and everything else. And here we have a chance to help them with the costs that they've incurred when their revenues have been falling and their fundraising has been falling. So I'm glad that with respect to Robert, because I didn't know if we were going to talk about others, like you said, Robert, I'm thinking that the second tranche will have the same opportunity and reach out to the same kind of partnerships and maybe different partnerships, but these are all very deserving and very generous community that we live in. And the third thing was, I was glad to see that we were funding some projects. I coach an 18 girls got that middle school's soccer this year, and you can't have comments with parents except that how unsettling a year this has been for kids that had no physical activity for a lot of them and didn't have certainty from one day to the next whether they were wearing a mask, what they were doing, whether they were having school at home. And so I'm very glad that we're going ahead with getting some funding for our project at Diablo Vista, and particularly just for the fact that we've included both programs, partnerships, and projects. Well done. So thank you for that.
Newell?
Sorry, actually, I'm going to wait for comments. I think the question I had been answered, so I'd rather wait and go to public hearing and then we can do comments.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I'd like
Dave,
to-
did you have a question?
Yeah. First, Joe, thank you. And thank you, Lonnie, and thank you to your staff for putting this together. This is an opportunity where we are able to kind of spin what has been offered to us into an opportunity to really build a much stronger Danville for both today and tomorrow. My only comment is really one where, the town has a pillared strategy of promoting the health and safety of its community. And it's not decades, but it's really our legacy as to what we just don't say we do, but we actually deliver on it. And you're the guy that does it. You and your team, they make it happen, and that's what's built the trust, the credibility, and the excitement of why people want to live in Danville, but want to not just live but raise their families here as well. I think it's a little disturbing, or not disturbing, but kind of disenchanted that folks question whether we were insensitive towards what happened with Tyrell Wilson. insensitive towards the area of mental illness, and noting as we emerge from the pandemic that we don't know what all that's about, and we don't know who's going to get affected. And I also believe that there's some that don't believe that that we're committed to the area of promoting health and safety. I think what you've earmarked in way of funding, not only it makes a point, which is we don't just share comments, we deliver on what we do. And this commitment and what's been earmarked truly does demonstrate our commitment towards promoting the health and safety of our community. And I really do want to thank you and your team for your sensitivity and your sincerity and your commitment to our community in these areas that are most important to, I believe, everyone right now.
Did you have a question that you wanted to end that with, or is that your?
Not at all.
This is the question
Really
for
a comment to
Okay.
Joe, because I don't think he and his team
Okay.
get enough credit for what they do. And
Okay,
I
so
just
what
wanted
I'd
to
like
make
to
sure.
do,
Supposed to be
though,
doing questions.
but
Sorry.
what I'd like to,
Protocol.
so in
I
the
apologize.
beginning,
I did not.
no worries. Love to just take questions right now. If we have questions, we still need to go out to the public, and then we can bring it back for further comment if anybody else on the council has further comments, if you don't mind. So at this point in time, I'd like to open it up for public comment. We do welcome your comments. Marie, is there anybody that has their hand raised? You can use the hand raise feature and would like to make a comment or anything.
Mayor, there are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. All right. So now what we'd like to do.
Now we have a hand raised.
Okay, that's okay. It's a little delay in the system. It's okay. So we do have a hand raised. I'd like to remind you that you've got 3 minutes, and we're looking forward to hearing your comments.
Okay, the first speaker that we have is Caitlin Sly.
All right. Welcome, Caitlin. And you're with Meals on Wheels, Diablo Region, I understand.
Yeah, hi, this is Caitlin Sly. I'm the Executive Director with Meals on Wheels, Diablo Region, and I just wanted to comment to thank you all for recommending funding for our organization. We have been serving the Danville community throughout the pandemic and have seen a huge increase in the number of seniors needing our services. And I just want to thank you all for your leadership on centering seniors as part of your vision for your town. And I think it's really important. It's not very often that seniors are centered. They're often forgotten, in fact. So I just wanted to thank you for your leadership and encourage you to go with your city manager's requests. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Are there any other questions or comments from the public?
Yes.
Okay.
The next speaker is Kathy Chiverton.
Kathy Shiverton, Discovery Counseling Center. Welcome, Kathy.
Good evening. I'm very grateful to be here tonight and to hear the wonderful work that's being proposed by the town manager and staff. On behalf of Discovery Counseling Center and the community we serve, we can't thank you enough for your commitment to the mental health of this community. I would like to support Councilman Storr's proposition to have money that is put aside for homelessness and for mental health to be dedicated to Tyrell Wilson, who, as you know, did suffer from severe mental health issues. And I think, as Councilmember Fong points out, this is a great opportunity to show and demonstrate the deep caring that this town has for those who are very vulnerable for mental health issues as well as homelessness. And thank you so much for the support that you show to all of us. Very grateful.
Thank you, Kathy.
Good night.
Thank you so much for being here this evening. Marie?
Yes, the next speaker is Judy Lloyd.
Okay, Judy Lloyd with the Chamber, Danville Area Chamber.
All right, thank you so much. I just want to echo what Kathy has said and what Caitlin has said. I think this community has, and particularly Joe, our town manager, and putting together all these recommendations, has done a fantastic job of outlining a lot of our major issues which need funding. And I'm really, really grateful that you are not forgetting businesses. Sometimes people take business for granted in good times, but we still have to remember we're still in a pandemic. And so everything that you've done and your support of this chamber and partnership with this chamber has been just so, to me, overwhelming as a new chamber CEO. And I just want to thank all of you, every member of the council, the mayor, the vice mayor, for all of your help and all of your support. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it. Marie?
Okay, there are no more hands raised at this time.
Okay, so we're going to bring it back. I close the public session right now and bring it back to the council for further discussion. Newell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know the council did sort of a deep dive based on the recommended recommendations from staff at our last study session. And with that, in the first tranche, we made some recommendations, which we see here tonight. And I think those are all excellent. I agree with Councilmember Stepper too, that if we are going to look at any changes, we can do it in the next tranche. We vetted, we agreed, we should stick to this. I also agree that I think, as Councilmember Stover said, that I think we should, in memory of Tyrell Wilson, put that with the money that we're putting towards mental health services. He's not the only one, only homeless person that has passed away in our community, but certainly the most recent under very difficult circumstances. I also believe that, to make it clear to everybody, this is a once in a lifetime. One, we hope we never see a pandemic like this. We've never seen the federal government. These are not really state funds. These are federal funds that came to us. And we were very fortunate on the allocation and how the methodology on a non-entitlement city gave us this amount of money. And as our city manager, or town manager said, it was very complicated. And again, I echo the thanks to Joe and Lonnie. From helping seniors to helping our senior commission create a vision from their master plan, to helping our businesses in a downtown plan that actually not only has the plan that will come out of this coming up this next year, but appropriate amount of funding that's behind that will make significant investments in areas that will change our community for the better in the future. And when you have one-time monies, those are the ways to use it. With that said, I would be delighted to make a motion after everybody else speaks.
Okay. Does anybody else like to comment? If so, okay, we've got Karen seconding that, and since I've waited now to the end, and that's always the best part about being mayor is you get to wait for everybody else to speak before you have an opportunity. I'd like to say on behalf of the council, we are all actively involved in our community, and we all are involved we donate lots of money to different organizations. I know for a fact that I do. And to have this opportunity to give back as a town, not just a council, but as a town, to these well-deserved organizations as well as nonprofits, businesses. We've covered everything from business to children to senior outreach to our museums, our library. We've done that. What an excellent list that was presented and that we had the opportunity as a council to go through and fine tune. I'm so proud to be able to say that, as a town, we're humbled enough to not just look at just the town, but to look and know that these are organizations that make our community better and have made us who we are by helping our seniors during times when COVID took place and they had no meals or no visits from anybody, to Down syndrome. Parents were still having children and still needed those services. Our libraries, you name it, they were there. Our own museum, the San Ramon Valley, had to close their doors, no visitors, and had to go virtual on majority of everything that they did was virtual, especially with the age group that a lot of those people that are there that are volunteering didn't have volunteer opportunities. So I am so proud to be sitting here right now to be able to say that we're able to utilize some of these funds for the betterment of our community and the allocation, I should say, of these funds as well. So on behalf of myself, thank you to the federal government for once. I can honestly say that, because everything else, I don't know. But for that particular reason, I am very happy that we are able to disperse these funds to these. And as we mentioned, more to come. And we look forward to doing a lot of nice things for our community as well, and upgrading and updating some things. So on that note, I don't know if anybody else has anything to say. Go ahead, Robert.
Just a comment, and I agree with everybody sitting at the dais tonight that these are monies well placed. I wish we had time to tell all the stories on how these individuals, these entities help the town of Danville, but the one that meant a lot to me was when we cut back our library hours, and the Library Foundation and Danville Library, Newell goes to them and explains the situation, and they come out and say, hey, we'll give you $100,000. That's partnerships. That's a relationship. Right. Those are the things that are important. I mean, Newell had the conscious of mind to go and make the ask, and I'm not sure how all the conversation went, but at the end of the day, not only does our library stay open, but it stayed open with the extended hours because of this relationship and this partnership. That's why you talk about giving back to the community. I know it's an overrated, cliche, but right now, this is how relationships get nurtured, and this is how relationships continue. And I think it's really important what we're doing here tonight. And thank you to Joe and Lonnie for helping us get to this point. Now, looking forward to the second tranche. Now, what a gift.
Karen?
With respect to his last comment, I think all of us see so many things in the community. Like I said, the costs are the same for nonprofits to run them. And we just have very generous community. And certainly Kids Country is a great group. Hospices, there's you could go through and name some other groups that are serving seniors, serving teens, serving. All you can go and come back to is saying that this was a group of people we have all interacted with, and who the community has great respect for all of those partnerships. So we will look in the future for other kinds of partnerships and these partnerships, but tonight we can all take great pride in the fact that these people have been working with us for many, many years. So thank you to all of those nonprofits.
So one more thing I'd like to mention as well as Robert brought up with Tyrell Wilson, it's difficult a lot of times when we sit in meetings and we cannot say anything, but we as a council have been looking at numerous ways of what we can do, not just for the homeless population, mental health, but also into the speakers that came and spoke to us under the good of the town. And, we don't do memorials in the town of Danville. So we were trying to figure out what we could do. So this is an opportunity for us to do something on behalf of not just Tyrell Wilson, but as Newell mentioned as well, the other homeless people that we've had in our community, so that we can make a donation on behalf of him, as well as the other homeless people that have passed through our community as well. So on that, I have a motion and a second. If Marie, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Fong?
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Stepper?
Yes.
Councilmember Storer?
100% yes.
Vice Mayor Arnerich?
Yes.
And Mayor Morgan.
Do we have to add some kind of accolade along with it as well, like fabulously 1,050% yes, or something? I don't know.
You are the
okay.
mayor. I guess you could do anything you want.
Yes.
The resolution was approved unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you, and thank you for all of that. What a good feeling 7.1 is. Okay, so we're going to
really happy that this is over with. By the way, yes. I think she's really happy that this vote took place.
Yeah,
that's a look of joy right there on her face.
For her, it's just beginning.
Yes, that's right. That's right. The allocations start. Well, no, yeah. I think her greatest joy this evening was saying the pledge, but that's just my thought. So anyways, we'll come back to that. 7.2 on the agenda this evening is consider adoption of resolution number 60-2021, extending and amending the employment agreement of our town manager. And Lonnie Ha will be presenting that this evening. Lonnie?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Morgan and council members. If it's okay, I would like to present item 7.2 and 7.3 at the same time. Resolution number 60-2021, extending and amending the employment agreement of the town manager. Resolution number 61-2021, extending and amending the employment agreement of the city attorney. Agenda item 7.2 and 7.3 propose extending and amending the employment contracts for the town manager and city attorney. Both of these positions are hired by and serve at the pleasure of the town council, subject to the terms set forth in their respective employment agreements with the town. The town manager has served in his position since April 8, 1993. The city attorney has served in his position since July 31st, 1995. The town council previously held closed sessions to evaluate the performance of both employees and to provide direction to the mayor to negotiate any potential changes in the two employment contracts. The proposed change to the town manager's employment agreement are as follows. The term of the agreement is extended through April 2023. The town manager's salary will be increased by 3.8%, which translates to an increase in salary of $9,359 and an increase in fringe benefits of $3,781. The proposed changes to the city attorney's employment agreement are as follows. The term of the agreement is extended through August 2023. In year one of the agreement, there is an increase in salary of 4% of an increased cost of $8,465 in salary and $3,048 in fringe benefits. In year two of the agreement, there is an increase in salary by the CIP for the Bay Area not to exceed 3%, which equals a maximum increase in salary of $6,603 and fringe benefits of $2,377. Because the town has a defined contribution pension plan, there are no future unfunded liabilities associated with any of these changes. That concludes my reports. It is recommended that the town council adopt resolution 60-2021, extending and amending the employment agreement of the town manager, and resolution 61-2021, extending and amending the employment agreement of the city attorney.
Thank you, Lonnie. I wanted to just do a quick clarification. We're combining the two. At first, I originally said 7.2, but we're actually doing 7.2 and 7.3 at the same time. Are there any questions right now of Lonnie? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the public. Are there any public comments? Marie?
There are no hands raised at this time for public comment. And just a reminder that you would be taking each resolution separately for a vote.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And so we've given it a few extra seconds because the last few times we've had somebody pop their hand up in the last second, but we'll go ahead and at this point, we don't see anybody else in the audience that would like to, so I've got Newell's hand up. We'll bring it back to the council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Lonnie, for doing this. I just want to share that I did get a call from a West Side Danville neighbor who was looking at the salaries and had questions. And it was interesting how many people in our community do not know that when we are not part of a public employee retirement system, we don't have OPEB costs, we don't have defined pensions, and that we don't do COLAs, cost of living allowances, just at random, unlike other cities where employees, generally speaking, don't believe that's a raise. They think that's a. We also haven't done raises for these two gentlemen for some time. And while all of our other employees have been getting some compensation adjustments. And I know as a council, when we went through all of this, that we were real pleased, but really important that these are personal services contracts. And what it means is, and this is the really good news, that our town manager, Joe Calabrigga, is going to stay with us for 2 years longer, which is a huge, huge benefit for our entire community. to help us carry out some of the most incredible opportunities we have with the capital improvement programs we have and other programs due to the Arpa funding, and as well as to have that incredible guidance from one of the best respected, most well-respected city attorneys, Rob Ewing. So to both of you, a personal and a council thank you for agreeing to stay in this organization. You are both extraordinary leaders, and I'd be glad to start move the items when appropriate.
Thank you. Very, very well said. Very well said. I concur. Robert.
First of all, I can't even imagine this town not being run by Joe Calabrico, and having Rob Ewing there for all these years, and that synergy between them has been absolutely incredible. A lot of us, all council members take credit for the way the town is run, the policies we make, but it starts at the top. And that leadership at the top has been Joe Calabrigo for, just about 30 years. And everything that you see that's wonderful in this town is because of Joe. He planned, as a planner, he was the one that basically planned the whole east side. And honestly, as town managers go, and we've all run into town managers over the years, Joe is, we could just carve Joe Calabrigo out and put him in a whole separate category by himself. And the same goes for Rob Ewing. At the end of the day, we're so much better because of Joe and Rob. And I'm really pleased that we have them through, I think I heard 2027 or 2028 or so. So that's really pretty special. So thank you for being around that long, Joe. Well, you're gonna make all of our plaques, in our town for exceeding, 30 years. So that's great. Congratulations.
Did you tag on more time on there, Robert? I'm sorry, did I miss something? Okay.
No,
Exactly. Karen?
I think he just cut off 8 years off of Joe. He said 30 years. It's 38 years that Joe has been here. If he came in 83, what? And
90.
it doesn't matter what it is. It only matters how the town runs. And this has been the hardest. It doesn't get easier. You think from the experience it's going to get easier, but instead we have COVID, and we have a situation where in 1918, the flu took like 4 years for it to go away. We're not done with COVID, and we need the kind of experience and leadership that we have between Joe and Rob. It's just been awesome. So I'm very grateful to do a second on one of those motions that I don't know which one you made yet, Noel, but thank you.
I started with Joe, and the second one is Rob, so we have to take them in that order.
It's almost hard to say Joe without Rob in the sentence.
Yeah, exactly. Dave?
Yeah. First, thank you for all you do, Joe. You're not only well respected, but highly regarded as probably one of the best, if not the best, of the town managers. And again, truly thank you. Being newly elected, I really do look forward to continue to listen to you and to work with you, but more importantly, to learn from you as part of my development toward better serving our community. For Rob, when he came on board, I thought you were just an attorney, and I have certain perspectives and opinions about attorneys, but what's quite clear is that you really stepped up and exceeded my expectations, not only as a legal expert of the town, but also as a true leader during the pandemic period when the offices were closed, when employees were working remotely. And we needed strong leadership to continue to really represent what's in the best interest of the town. And you did that by being just a great leader and being a really good right hand to Joe. And as everyone has said, we really do appreciate that these contracts will last until, 2027, Robert?
It's a big number, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to clarify this when you make the motion, though, Newell and Karen.
No, we're not.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you both. Like I said again, I'll say it once again, it's difficult to come at the very end, but thank you to both of you. Thank you I know that you'll be here throughout the time that I'm still mayor. So I'm happy about that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Newell to make the motion on item 7.2.
Yes, on resolution number 60-21, I hereby move the item as presented.
Second that.
I'd like to second that one and say again that that is until April of 23 and until we get to extend again.
Clarifications there, right? We're all having a little fun with it, but that's great.
Details.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Marie.
Yes. Councilmember Fong,
Yes.
Councilmember Stepper,
Yes.
Councilmember Storer,
Absolutely.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Yes.
and Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Resolution number 60-2021 was approved unanimously.
Madam Mayor, I move resolution number 61-2021 as presented here tonight.
Okay, this would be for item 7.3, which is 61-2021.
Second
Do I
that.
have a second? All right, Robert, second. All right, Marie.
Yes. Councilmember Fong,
Yes.
Councilmember Stepper,
Yes.
Councilmember Storer,
Absolutely.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Yes.
and Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Resolution 61-2021 was approved unanimously.
Thank you, gentlemen, for staying on board with us. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 8, which is our town council reports. Item 8.1 is to appoint a Danville representative to the Iron Horse Corridor Management Program Advisory Committee to fulfill a term that was ending on June 30th, 2024. And Marie, would you mind giving us a little bit of background on why we have this on our agenda this evening?
Yes. Brittany Beach was serving as the advisory committee representative, and due to her recent resignation from the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission, this left a vacancy that the commission recommended be filled by Commissioner Adam Falcon. And this requires a council appointment to fulfill the term ending June 30th, 2024.
And I'll just add that when we put Adam Falcon, so you'll remember that we just put Adam Falcon literally on the Parks Commission, and he's already vice chair. And now he's getting involved in this. He's 27 years old. He buys a house in Danville. He's on our Parks Commission. He's raising a family here. Just a stand-up guy. I like to see young people like this coming on board and taking on more responsibility. And he is one of those guys.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. And, you know, the thing is, as well as I remember, you know, when I was advocating in DC and I was talking to Diane Feinstein's office and some of the others, they had no idea what Iron Horse Trail was. They were not familiar with it. So this will be great to have him on there and also advocate and let people know what the Iron Horse Trail is and how important it is to our community. So with that, do I have a motion or recommendation?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Adam Falcon to the Iron Horse Trail Corridor Management Program.
I'll second that.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Marie, you're busy tonight doing roll call.
Yes. Councilmember Fong,
Yes.
Councilmember Stepper,
Yes.
Councilmember Storer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan,
Yes.
and appointing Adam Falcon to fulfill the term was approved unanimously.
Wonderful, and we look forward to hearing all about what's happening with that corridor. We'll get him on our agenda sometime in the future once he gets his feet wet. Item 8.2 is our Street Smarts board member, which is Councilmember Storer. Any updates?
This is exciting because it's good timing here. Beginning October 1st, we have a poster contest and it ends on November 4th. And the theme is, it's called Walk, and Roll. So we're looking at sort of a fun theme, and we've already have a great deal of interest. A lot of young people have pulled a number of applications to be a part of this. October is National Walk Bike Month, and Street Smarts is having a poster contest. So the timing couldn't be any better. And as each of you know that sat on Street Smarts, we have some extremely talented young people, down to the kindergartners that can draw so much better than I can draw, up to the high schoolers that are doing amazing things. So it's really kind of fun to watch all this. And we just had a judging on some talented people. And you'll see that here coming up, I believe in November, the results of that. And once again, some extraordinary young people are involved. So, thank you for letting me be a part of this. Very exciting.
So you said November 4th, all the drawings are due, or they start opening it up at November 4th?
So it starts on October 1st. And
Okay.
it ends on November 4th at 4 p.m. 2021.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. You're right. They have some fabulous, I mean, these children are so gifted. It's just amazing to see the artwork that they come up with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions of Robert? If not, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 8.3, which is an interesting one, Recycle Smart.
I'm sorry, Renee, one last thing I forgot
Sure.
to mention. You had asked about the book. Remember that incredible book that we all received? Well, because of COVID and dollars and cents, it's no longer a book anymore. But that book will be coming back, and I specifically asked on your behalf, and they said yes. It's something that they loved. It just couldn't happen now because of money.
Well, and it's a series, a lot of these children, they hold on to that, or it's like a collection of them, right? Because I know I have a collection from every year as well. And then the children sign them, once they win, they get to sign these books. So it's a big deal. It's such a fun event for all of them. So that's too bad, but totally understood. All right, so we're going to go ahead now, unless Robert, you have anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you.
Would like me to wait? Okay.
My apologies. Thank you.
It's okay. Well, bring it on back. 8.3, Recycle Smart, board member report by our vice mayor and myself. We both sit on there. Newell, would you like to start with that?
Sure, I'll start on two items. One, this year, we have a 10-year contract with our processors, Republic Services and MDR, Mount Diablo Recycling. And this year was the year where we do part of our contract to do a contract review for a cost adjustment. And we do have that after an audit we did of Republic Services. And so this year that will be have to be taken into account as we adjust our rates. We're very fortunate though, over the long history of this JPA, our rates are still exceptionally low. And we have some of the highest recycle rates, highest compliance rates from our customers. And that's a combination of not only the willingness of our customers to do the right things, from composting to sorting to washing their recycled goods, but also to the promotions that both the JPA and our service providers give us to help make that happen. The second thing is just to be upfront, we have had pickup issues. Republic Services picks up all three of our waste cans. Two of those they process and one they deliver on the recyclables to Mount Diablo Recycling. They've had a combination because of due to COVID, absenteeism has been high over the past few months. It looks like it's starting to trend now that the state did not extend this paid leave program, that drivers should start to show up. They usually have an average of less than 10 that don't show up for routes, and they have backup drivers to do that. They've also purchased some additional trucks to help make that happen. But it is real. And I know we are trying to message this. There'll be the Recycle Smart will be sending out a correspondence to let people know, that be patient, that when you get the call that Republic Services, sorry that your can, please leave it out. It will be picked up by 6 p.m. the next night. That is true. And for 98% of the time they've done that. You don't need to call us under those circumstances. However, if it is not picked up, then Recycle Smart doesn't need to hear from you. Something happened in the delivery and they will make an immediate pickup for that. But it's been more than we've seen for many years, but everybody is focused on trying to address the issue. And fortunately, the state now is not working against us. So we hope to see better outcomes.
Yeah, and that's been, just to clarify as well, is a fact that a majority of these mishaps, when people call them, I haven't had my garbage picked up, is due to this, because they have an excellent track record in our community. It's just unfortunate that we were able to have interruptions in our service. But as Newell mentioned, it's nice to know that you'll get a message usually that'll say, hey, we weren't able, keep your can out and we'll pick it up tomorrow. So if you do hear people that are concerned about that, let them know, as well as the fact that if their garbage is not picked up, it could have just been that they missed your house, or was, sometimes people think that the garbages are missed, but there's a car perhaps on the way, or an obstacle that they had to go around. They couldn't get to the garbage. And I know, Newell, you took yourself off mute. Did you want to add?
I was just going to say, I would add exactly what you said. The ask is publicly here is for people to be patient when they receive the call, know that it will be picked up. Oh, please call only if it doesn't get picked up by 6 p.m. the following night. That will be addressed immediately. Thank you.
Right, exactly.
And I really appreciate both of you keeping our rates reasonable, because that's really fair numbers when I open that bill.
So, and in speaking of that, we do have a rate setting meeting on Friday, as Joe had mentioned as well. So we'll be in that meeting. And I wanted to say that, we're in the process right now of, a franchise agreement and getting bids at the table. So we're in the process of doing that as well. So it's been busy. But it's all for the right reasons, and know that we're both at the table, like you said, Robert, to make sure that we're overseeing everything and that Danville's taken care of. So
when you consider PG&E rates where they're going through the roof, water rates going through the roof, it's really sort of comforting to know that garbage is still being sort of stable. So I appreciate that.
Right. And we have an excellent recycle rate in Danville. I mean, we do really well compared to other communities. It's a really good thing to see as well. So keep up the great work, everybody.
Yeah.
Item 8.4, are there any other town council updates? All right. Well, seeing none, I'd like to add that Councilmember Dave Fong and Vice Mayor Newell Arnrich was also a voting delegate, and myself, we attended the League of California Cities meeting up in Sacramento for 3 days last month. It was very well attended, but also very well socially distanced and protocols in place. So thank you for that. And we are bringing information back to whatever we think is necessary for the town of Danville. I always find it so fascinating to sit in these classes and to see these communities that don't know what they're doing when we're already doing it and we've been doing it for a while. It's great to see that Danville is always ahead of the curve on that, and makes me very proud. So Newell, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say there was 1,900 participants, one of the largest events they had. You had to have proof of COVID test. The whole system went smoothly. The other thing, I think I shared this with Joe when I got back, and I might have mentioned it to the mayor, but as we were all watching the Helen Putnam Awards and seeing a couple of cities that were being recognized for this wonderful work that they were doing, helping businesses, I sort of had my jaw drop. And with all due respect to those cities, I'm sure that was great what they did, but it was so small in comparison to the efforts that we put to help our local businesses. And I think we thought we were being humble, but I think in retrospect, we did a lot more than other cities could or did. And, I applaud our staff and everybody for carrying it out, particularly between Jill Bergman and Liana Aduto, for the outstanding work that they did and for the support of the entire council to help appropriate the right amount of funding to do the best job. So yes, Sacramento was a great 3-day event, and was able to attend several, actually 2 very inspirational speakers who give you a little bit of pause to look at your own way of dealing with others and how to make communities great. So yes, great time. Thank you for bringing this up, because I know we all have to report out on that too.
Yeah, I thought it was like 1,800, but yeah, we had to provide our COVID vaccine and/or a negative test in order to get in. So that was good to have as well. Plus, we had to wear masks the entire time. So another good opportunity to see those type of restrictions in place with that many people. And you're right. I was sitting next to Dave Fong in the general session when the Helen Putnam Awards came on, and I remember whispering to him saying, every single one of these things we're doing, and we're doing it that much bigger, but it's staff time. And so we spend our staff time on our community, whereas the staff time to be able to put those awards together. So rather than have a trophy, we have it real life. So on that note, are there any other town council updates or reports? So we've kept you long here this evening. It's been a great council meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you soon.
Good night. Thank you.
Have a good
Meeting
night.
adjourned.